CP3 and Robbie G coming at you with episode 225, recapping all the DC sports.
By CP3. Beats by CP3.
Welcome to Sports on the Hill podcast. Hashtag DC Sports Without the Politics with Carol and Robbie on True Radio Network. Thank you, gentlemen.
CP3, Robbie G, coming to you live Monday night, episode 225. We got some Capitals, we got some Nationals, we even got some boxing talk for you, and we got the Wizards Roundtable with the Wizards fighting for playoff position. I can't wait to hear these guys talk about that in the second hour, but we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. Robbie G, how you doing tonight in the man cave?
I'm doing great. It's been an exciting week for sports. Right now, the Wizards are down 88 to 75, and an important game with playoff implications for seeding. Bradley Beal is out of this game with an injured hamstring, I believe. But we're on triple-double watch for Westbrook. He's one away from setting the all-time record of 182 in triple doubles. Right now, he's tied at 181 with the great Oscar Robinson. So it's a close game. He's very close to the triple double. He just needs a couple more rebounds, I believe. I think he already has it in assists and points. We'll get into the Wizards talk, obviously, in the second hour. But if that triple double does happen live, we will bring that to you live because it is a pretty historic moment. Right now, we also are watching the Islanders and Boston play each other. It's 2-2 in that game. That game has some playoff implications because if the Islanders win and the Caps beat Boston tomorrow, the Caps would then play the Islanders. If Boston wins tonight or tomorrow, then we would play Boston, and the Islanders would go to Pittsburgh. So that's some of the big things in the news and notes I wanted to mention. But yeah, it's just been an exciting week for sports in the DC area. I know on Saturday we had a double overtime game, actually all three games, because the Nats game also went to extra innings, and so that was an exciting day of sports. So we'll be covering that down from the Capitals perspective and the Wizards perspective later. I actually had Champ come on and do a post game with me for both of those games on Saturday. But yeah, just an exciting time. This is the last week of the regular season for both of these teams.
Yeah,
and it's coming down to an opportunity to make the playoffs for both these teams. Well, the Caps are already in. They're locked into the 2 seed. But the Wizards may make the playoffs too, so it's an exciting week for us.
I see they're actually in ninth place, moved up one spot. I mean, they have a half-game lead. And, it's interesting, we were having the Wall versus Westbrook debate. I know you guys were having a intense conversation about it, and looks like Westbrook, because I had questions about him helping the team get better and take it to the next level and actually make the playoffs with the expanded field this year. And looks like they're going to make that happen. So I'm not going to say I doubted Westbrook. I'm going to say I had questions with the trade, but my questions have been answered.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, unfortunately, Wall got injured, and Westbrook is setting records for triple doubles. So it's hard to, even if you lose a draft pick, I mean, the PR from that alone is well worth it. I mean, the Wizards are more relevant now than I think we could have imagined a year ago. So, and as you were mentioning, they moved up a spot against Indiana, and Indiana, last I checked, was actually losing to Cleveland in a very close game. We really want to try to get the 8th seed, though, because if we can push for that 8th seed, then you play in that 7-8 game, and the loser then plays the winner of the 9-10 game, and that's a big difference. Then if you lose the 9-10 game, you're out, right? So you want to not play in that 9-10 game if you can help it, because if you win that 7-8 game, Carol, you get the 7th seed. So you could go in as the 8th seed, move up to the 7th seed just by winning that game. So, I mean, that's a big opportunity. So even if the 8th seed would be the road team in that game, you'd want to give yourself a shot there. They played pretty well on the road. So a lot can happen. So we'll break that down a little bit more in detail if people want to understand that.
You're getting into too much
NBA
detail.
talk.
I'm sitting there like, it really does that in the NBA playoffs now. See, I haven't watched it. NBA.
Yeah, this is the first year, so brand new rules, all new thing just for this year probably. I know they're evaluating it going forward, but it makes it kind of like a March Madness kind of entry playoff, like a kind of March Madness is the first four where they have like an early round to play in.
Yeah.
And this is kind of on that style. It gets basically 2 games that will be interesting no matter what, and then a third game in addition. So they're guaranteed 3 exciting games in the NBA versus last year's format only guaranteed 2. Smart on them for figuring that out. But anyway, yeah, so I mean, that's all I got for our news and notes segment, but we can go ahead and bring in, well, do you have any news and notes before I bring in Anna?
No, I really don't have any football news. We had the draft. I'm still working on coordinating with Dujane for us to do our breakdown of the players that the Washington football team signed. And, just stay tuned. When we get some news, we definitely will pass it along.
All right, 1 or 2 little notes that I was going to have. First of all, the Mantha Ray merchandise is off the shelves. I got a great picture with my son in it. We'll be posting that later this week. I want to give a shout out. It's sort of a sad one, but at the end of the recording of the last episode, TJ Oshie's dad had not yet passed away, and he had just afterwards. So I'm just putting only 1 jersey up today in my wall of jerseys here in honor of his dad. We'll talk about that hat trick game that he had in honor of his dad in a little bit. Also down below me, if you're watching live on Twitch, I have my emotes. I was actually able to become an affiliate streamer on Twitch, and we have our first subscriptions and followers, and over 100 followers over there now. So if you want to subscribe to me, you can get these fancy Charizard graphics I made down below. If you're watching on Facebook, I'm sorry you don't see what I'm talking about. But anyway, I just wanted to give those 2 little shout outs to them, and so rest in peace to Coach, obviously, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the upcoming game, but I wanted to put that in the news and notes as well. End of the 3rd quarter, and the Wizards are not looking too good, so I'll let you know how that goes. But Anna, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Coming off of a great Mother's Day weekend and gorgeous weather, and my mom came out from California. So it's been good. It's been good. And it looks like you had both moms out, right? Mother-in-law and mom out.
Yes, I did.
Good.
I had both moms. I did it at my parents' house, which was excellent. And it was nice to celebrate with 3 moms, including a mom-to-be. So it's always exciting.
And Carol, were you grilling with family, or was
you
that
already,
for the podcast?
You already know I had the grill fired up for mine. We had a nice dinner, had the grandkids and the great grandkids over at my sister's house. So, threw down some salmon, some burgers, some dogs, some chicken wings, nice little variety on the grill. You know how I do.
And the weather was great. I mean, we had a couple, like we were in Annapolis, we had a couple of random storms blow through, but overall it was nice to finally be able to see family, kind of like all get together. So that was the highlight. And then these games, I don't know, kind of 50-50. I have to laugh.
We won more than we lost. So
they went 3-1. The one game that they lost was kind of crucial, but we'll talk about it when it comes up. But all in all, it was a good week.
Right, and also one going to overtime. I guess between both of those, we had to win that game in regulation, which honestly I thought Pittsburgh had won that night. It didn't matter, but it turned out someone tried to convince me at the math that we won all of our games in regulation. We would have had the tiebreaker over them. So I don't know how. The math didn't add up to me, but I'm not going to get into that. But
I think it was overall, the rank of wins or something, because I'm not sure. You know more about breaking down. Yeah, I heard that also. If they would have won in regulation, they could have secured the #1 spot. But I'm not sure how it made a difference with Pittsburgh having the edge head to head.
Yeah, I didn't either, and it looked like they had more row too, or the same row. So maybe wins counts overall, wins in regulation. I had not seen that stat, but
I will tell you just like one little sidebar comment that I thought was funny that you guys might appreciate. So like it is my mom that got me into hockey, being from Winnipeg and everything else, and she has her teams and whatever, and she was there when like 5 or 6 years ago I got Tommy's autograph, and my daughter's like standing on the table between him and Brooks, and it was this big thing. So she's like, "Oh, Tommy," she's like, so when she arrived and came in, the first thing she says is, "Oh, I think he needs anger management. I think he's, and I said, "Oh my God, like, come on, like you're from Winnipeg, like this is like, whatever." And she says, "Oh, he's, he just seems so angry and this and that." And I said, "Well, they're out to get him. Like, it's really not fair." And I said, and then you look at Sidney Crosby, and I said, and he's throwing some guys.
Wasn't a peep said about Sidney Crosby.
Yeah. And I said, Konechny, who I can't stand, but I hate Crosby more. So I'm like, he's bashing his head into the ice. And she just looks at me and she's like, I think Crosby's a bit of a wuss.
Thanks.
You know what? I couldn't have summed it up better. Here you are, a lifelong fan of hockey, and I have other choice words, but I'll keep it PC because it's my mom. Right? Yes. The worst.
Yeah. Well, we definitely going to get into the time.
There's definitely a lot of debate amongst my friends about it. Obviously, Brian's not going to be speaking on it tonight. He wants to refrain. In fact, it's funny, as I mentioned, Brian connects as I say that, but he did say that he wasn't going to talk about the hockey, and he was just going to talk baseball tonight, which I totally respect that opinion, but he obviously felt very differently about Tom Wilson than we do.
We're definitely going to talk about it. If he's on the feed, he's going to end up chiming in after I say what I have to say.
He has to. Yeah, especially when I have like the long pause for Tommy and the acknowledgement for Tommy. Just kidding, Brian.
So, but let's go back in time and talk about the very first Rangers game, yes. And then we'll obviously get into that situation because then it relates to the second Rangers game. But let's do the scoring first, and then we could get into some of the controversy.
And we'll see if we're going to poke the bear a little bit. Maybe Brian will turn that mic on. Maybe. We'll see. So we have the first Rangers game. We have Nick Dowd opening the scoring at 14-12, assisted by Hagelin and Hathaway. And then 90 seconds later, Sherry scores his 13th, assisted by Raffle and Tom Wilson. And then the Rangers score to close out the first. Second period, Rangers score in the first 4.5 minutes by the same player whose name I can never say. And I know I'm not going to try to do it justice, Brian, but it starts with a Z. Anyways, and at 18,
the
Benajad. I'm just kidding. But again, phenomenal. 2 goals in 4.5 minutes. Come on. At 18:30, Hathaway scores his 6th, assisted by Dowd. And the third period was completely dominated by the Capitals. You have Sprung scoring his 12th, Backstrom with his 15th. and Tommy Wilson at 18-34 with his 13th, with a 6-3 win. That was a good Rangers game. The next one was, well, I can't even say it's good. No, I will say it's good. As a Caps fan, it was a great game.
Yeah. Well, I'll let Carol give his thoughts first.
This was a very interesting 2-game series with the Rangers. In this game, there was an incident where one of the Rangers players was going to the net. Puck was held. He was still poking at it, and his skate was in the belly of our goaltender. Tom Wilson saw that, and he decided to punch the guy a couple of times for doing it. Therefore, melee breaks out. A couple of fights break out, and then a superstar from the Rangers, the bread man Panarin, decides to jump on Tom Wilson's back in the heat of battle.
Yep.
And he gets tossed like a rag doll, and Tom takes a couple of punches because it's the heat of battle. You know, you're not worrying about if he's a superstar, if he's a fighter or what. He engaged himself in that situation. You don't see Backstrom doing that. You don't see Kuzi doing that. You didn't see Rana doing that when he was here. When you're a superstar, you know your role, you know your place. If you're one of those guys that want to get in there and throw some punches, then, you know, what comes. And, you know, I believe that play, that situation, and penalty that was taken earlier swung the momentum in the Capitals' favor. Rangers were, I guess, upset about the whole situation. But, I mean, I understand Brian's upset about it, but when you insert yourself into a fight, what happens. If he would have stayed on the side, he'd have never got hurt. That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I didn't see it live. I mean, we watched it live. It existed during our show last week, and it didn't register as serious that we even needed to talk about it, which a lot of people are like, why didn't you talk about it? My dad was watching, is like, you never even mentioned it. I was like, yeah, I mean, I saw him flip around. I saw a little scrum at first. And I get when you slow it down, it looks like he grabbed his hair and it gives him a pile drive. I don't think that's actually what happened in the moment. I think anything slowed down can look like that. Now, I've had a lot of arguments with different Rangers fans about the slowdown is what happened, you know, the speed up is not. And you could look at it from both ways. And everybody comes out and hates Tom Wilson whenever he does anything. You know, Sidney Crosby did the exact same move the next night, right? And he was intentionally trying to bang someone's head on Konechny. And got nothing for it, not even the $5,000 fine.
There was no peep from any of the sports affiliates whatsoever. No one said one thing about that, but everybody was talking about Tom Wilson in the same situation. And that's hilarious to me. And then along with the Rangers being upset with him only being fined $5,000 and not getting suspended as they felt he should because their star got hurt. Player Association didn't see it as an issue. I don't see it as an issue.
No.
It's interesting to hear like previous players, what they were saying about it, and different coaches around the league and different people. I mean, it's a very split decision. Some people want Tom Wilson out of the game and anything goes to that narrative. Some people are looking at it as, you know, it's a hockey play and a scrum in front of the net, and unfortunately somebody got hurt. I mean, but there's such a huge range between those two.
But that they only want him out the league is because they can't stand playing against him because he's just forced to be. There's no other player that I can think of in this league that has his size, speed, and skill and can play on the power play and in all facets of the game. I can't think of another player that has that talent level and that fear at the same time.
Just a few days before that, he earned the A on his jersey. So it's like, it's not like he's, you know, a complete goon, and it's like, give me a break. So he did. Panarin jumped on his back. What did you think was going to happen? You jumped on Tom Wilson's back in the heat of a scrum. Like, give me a break.
It could have been a lot worse.
I want to just quick scoring update. The Wizards have gone on a crazy run. Field goal drought lasts 3 minutes for Atlanta, and in doing so, the Wizards cut it all the way to 4. It's now 196 with just about under 8 minutes left to go in that fourth quarter. So a really big game and comeback. Greg, Christian has asked a couple questions in chat on Facebook, saying wins is the first tiebreaker, regulation wins is second, and then row is third. So regulation wins is before row, which I did not know, so I appreciate that update.
Yeah.
And then in
Good
G-Track
info.
plus minus, since March 28th, Chara is minus 11 and Johnson is minus 6. I'm worried about that pairing going into the playoffs. It wasn't trending well for him. The eye test doesn't seem like they're doing that much worse, and we seem to be winning games at a pretty good clip. Obviously a minus 11 isn't a good number for Chara, but I also know I'm surprised he's played as many games as he had this season. I thought he would rest some games, especially down the stretch.
Right.
You also have to look at the injury that's been sustained. Some of the people that haven't been in the lineup, Obi's been out of the lineup. So teams have been playing the Capitals a lot different, especially with Obi out. So, I'm not really too worried about that because you know what you're going to get from Chara. I agree with you, Robbie. I thought he would receive more rest during the season being his age, but it doesn't look like it's really affecting him. And he's out there playing well every night. He hasn't really had any games where he looked like he was out of place or didn't have the wheels to get it done. So, if he knows his body better than anybody else, he's 40 or 44, 40, I can't even remember how old he is.
44, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when he was with Ottawa back in the day. So I just damn, that's a long time.
Yeah, so defensive rebound for Russell Westbrook, and that is an important statistic because 10 rebounds, 17 assists, 21 points, gives him the triple-double, now stands alone at 182. I just wanted to break in with that. That's an exciting stat, and it's only a 1-point game right now with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So they're coming back.
A ton of time in basketball.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, they just hit a basket, so now it's a 3-point game with just under 7. But I'll stop giving Wizards updates because those are the two big ones. But it's a big historic moment for Russell Westbrook and NBA history, and I just wanted to at least put that in there, and we'll talk about that more in the NBA section. So let's get into this other Rangers game and the craziness that started with the fighting.
Oh man, dude, ouch! This game, I had flashbacks of my youth watching hockey when you used to see this all the time. But this was a hell of a game. Go ahead, Anna, break it down. I'm starting to smile just thinking about talking about it.
Yeah, break down the goal scoring, but then we'll also break down the fact there were 6 fights in the first.
And it's so funny because when I usually get all my information about the games and it's first period, no goals. I was first period, no goals because there was a ton of fights. So in the second period though, this is where you get that little TJ Oshie, let's go coach moments. Just so he gets his first with the power play goal 12 seconds into the second, assisted by Dylan and TBR. And then about 8 minutes later, he scores with another power play goal, which was his 20th, assisted by Orloff and Backstrom. Nick Dowd gets a tip in at 14:48 to make it 3-0 Caps. And then going into the third period, the Rangers score first. But at 18:20, there we go. Hat trick for TJ Oshie after just losing his father a couple of days prior. Coach Oach, it just all the feels on that one. He gets it with an empty netter. Rangers do score one more time, but the Caps pull off a 4-2 win. And this is where you have penalty minutes for the Capitals 56 and New York 85.
There was
but I think the whole, aside from the fighting, which she was completely badass, and I was losing it once they dropped the puck, and I was there's 3 fights, this is awesome. Just the fact that TJ Oshie can come back, just hours after losing his dad and get a hat trick, and how emotional it was, and how fantastic the team surrounded him was awesome. Vitek Vanacek was on fire, and this was a fun, but I agree with you, Carol. This is old school hockey to watch.
Yeah, it was to see the line fight with 1 second as soon as the puck dropped. I was because I was actually at work watching it on my computer, streaming it, and I saw that. I was oh, this is going to be very interesting. And the fact they had the 4th line on the ice, I was they pretty much knew what it was. And So you had that first first brawl with 3 fights, and then as soon as Wilson hit the ice, Smith or the Rangers decided he wanted to be the guy to, I guess, retribution, and he got his butt whipped.
Yeah, I did.
It was hilarious. I mean, Wilson was just like, yeah, he was going to work on him like he was in the alley somewhere. And he just came out of a bar and he was drunk. It was crazy how bad he beat that dude. And I mean, but the Rangers felt they had to, make their point. They didn't feel like justice was due, justice was done for Wilson. I get it, but when you're not a physical team, and the Capitals are, it just you got beat on ice and you got beat with the glove. So it was a interesting ending to the season series because if you recall, it started out with the Rangers dominating with their speed, taking beating the Caps pretty convincingly, and throughout the season, the Caps figured out a way to overcome that, even when they didn't have some of their star players, and people stepped up, and that's what this team has to do in the playoffs and going forward.
Yeah.
So we saw it in 2018, and we need to see it now. So also we didn't mention the news and notes. So they said Obi was actually skating today, and Backstrom, for the first time with the red jersey on. So he's actually on the first line in the power play unit in practice today. So that's good to finally get Obi back on the ice. Actually looking like he's ready to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could do a browser source to get live scores up on there, but I'm not going to try to figure that out right now. But the Wizards are not doing so great. I know that
No.
Peter in Twitch chat was curious about the live score. I'll give an update in a few minutes. But my thoughts on this game, I'm so happy for TJ. The embrace at the end with Backstrom holding on to him and just seeing the emotion pour out of him, and just the team's ability to sort of set TJ up for success on that night. And he said that he needed that as a thing to go through with his brothers. I think it could be huge for team building going forward. It's such a sad story, but sometimes out of great tragedy can come a bonding experience between players. And so he felt so blessed to be able to share in this experience with them. And they were saying, it's not just his loss, that he was a big part of the team. He was a big part of holding the cup up right after the trophy. He was one of the iconic moments that happened, on all the DVDs and all the videos that you see of that moment. That is one of the big moments that happened. And the Capitals players realize that he's a part of their team. All of these families are. So. But yeah, I was happy that they were able to get that empty netter for him. I'm happy that they were able to win, even with all that was going against them. And they've been playing a lot of these games without players. And, we'll talk about it again. Kuzi and Sam are both out, and a lot of injuries, and Ovechkin's out, and who's going to step up? And, it would have been great if they could have won the Philadelphia game coming up. But, I'm so impressed that they were able to win this game.
I mean,
Agreed.
yeah, to speak on the TJ Oshie factors, I didn't really talk about it. It was, it's like with him coming back so soon, I felt like it was going to be his night. Like he was playing hurt, pain, and he was trying to, find that peace that only, athletes can find when they're doing, playing their sport. So I kind of felt like he was going to have a big night. I wasn't expecting a hat trick, which was great. And, someone that's, lost his dad, I could understand, the emotion he was going through when he got the hat trick and he, sat down and, it all came out. So, I mean, like you say, it's like a brotherhood, it could make the team stronger and going forward. And we saw, in the last game that we're, about to get into against Philly, that they were very short-handed, but they still found a way to, come out on top. So I think it's definitely going to be something going forward. And also with the, pending expansion team, there was some talk about the beginning of the season that they might leave him, open, unprotected. But now, some of the comments of some of the players are saying that he's the, soul of this team, and he helps make this team go. Hopefully, that goes a long way into, because I think he's a great player in that aspect too. That you see the hustle, you see the grind, you see the want, and when you see it from someone like him, it just permeates through the whole lineup, and that's when you see that hustle factor. that we saw back in 2018. Like the puck was, going that way. You say puck luck, but sometimes it's just out hustling, out angling, out thinking your opponent just a split second quicker. And we saw that with them, and I want to see them get back to that level.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was an emotional game. It was an intense way to end the season series. I definitely did not make any friends with any Rangers fans after that game because obviously a lot of arguments. One thing that did come out of the rematch one that we just haven't mentioned yet is the Mantha Ray got clipped up high, and that was.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, he was offered a fair fight, did not take the fair fight, and then he cross-checked him right in the head, and he got a 1-game suspension for that, which people were like, well, he deserves it, blah, blah, blah. I also don't like the fact that people were like, Tom Wilson eventually turned it down, or he went back into the locker room. I mean, if he really damaged his hand fighting somebody,
he had a cut on his hand. They showed his hand bleeding from getting cut from fight, so better to be. I mean, if he'd have stayed on ice, who would they have had that would have went at him? He'd have knocked them out too. So, he just wanted to get his hand right, make sure it wasn't nothing bad.
He doesn't want to get more injured going to the playoffs. We already have so many injured players, and all they were doing is fighting when he was on the ice. So it's like at least it gets it back to a hockey game by taking him out.
It was
so
cool,
that's
I loved it.
That's kind of crazy. And then the other thing was just, they were like excusing like the cross check to the head as in like, now everything is fair game because they didn't. Get Tom Wilson out of the game somehow.
That's how some folks going. That's how some folks going to look at it. I'm more amazed that first of all, he didn't break his nose, and second of all, he was back out there his next shift. I'm like, this dude is tough as a mud. He took a cross check to the face.
I had another debate today with people that are not satisfied with the Mantha Ray. They were saying, well, look, Verona has 8 goals on a much worse Detroit team. I'm like, he wasn't doing jack shit for us. Get over it. Like, we need a physical guy to get up.
We're in the East, the toughest division in hockey. He can do that in that division. He wasn't doing it in this division. So sometimes the change of scenery is better. Look at Andre. Andre's killing it in Colorado.
Yeah.
He couldn't do that here. He needed a different scenario. I'm not saying that he didn't have the skill, but sometimes you have to fit where you go, and maybe he didn't feel comfortable, maybe he didn't fit, and he fits Colorado style better. Rana fits Detroit style, the way what they're trying to play. He had the 4-goal game. Okay, great. He wasn't doing that here consistently. He started out hot, and then teams will pick up on it. We saw him get benched a couple of times for lack of effort on the defensive end, not playing 200-foot hockey, and it is what it is. You can woulda, coulda, shoulda all you want and rehash it, but what difference is going to make? You're not making decisions on the team. He's still going to be on the team, and Ron is still going to be in Detroit. So what's the point?
And the thing is, like, we could give Ron a top-line minute. So if he only could do that on the top line, we already have Ovechkin. Like, it's just not happening. Like, he's not playing on our top line.
Then you going to wake up those guys that's talking about they shouldn't re-sign Ovechkin and all that. I see that. I look at them like, what is wrong with y'all?
Absolutely.
What meth are y'all hitting? Because whatever it is, please put it away because that's some asinine crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Well, and the Mantha thing, it's like, you come to a new team, you get 4 goals in 4 games, and it's not like all of a sudden he did that and did nothing. He has been there. I feel like he did have kind of like one shitty game, and
he's not perfect. He's not going to score a goal in every game, and people are like, well, what he gave up? He should be like the next Wayne Gretzky. And I'm like, I read that. I'm like, get the hell out of here with that BS.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, like
just the fact that they would even say the next Wayne Gretzky. Already, I would have just been like, you know what? It's pointless me to continue this conversation. I'm losing brain cells.
I know, but I just think he can fill a void of what we need. And Verona couldn't do it. We gave him opportunities, and it's very easy to be like 8 goals on a worse team. We made the wrong choice. I'm like, I don't think you're fully considering the entire ramifications. And I'll be curious how he does in the playoffs. And yes, he is a streaky player, but he gets points when he needs it. But anyway, let's get into this Philadelphia game because I can definitely go on rants about social media for a while.
Oh, yes. I have to excuse myself before I,
Just a
wind up in jail or
quick
something.
scoring update. It's still 2-2 in the Boston Islanders game with a minute and 28 left in regulation. So just a
Oh,
quick
wow.
scoring
Wait.
update.
Wait, no. The New York Islanders Boston game in mine is 3 minutes left in overtime.
What?
Yeah.
I know my feed can't be that slow. Hold up.
Yeah.
That would be
Well,
my
it might
feed,
it
that
might
would
have
be
said
that
overtime. I might have missed that. It might have said overtime. I might have missed that.
Yeah,
I mean-
2:49 after overtime, tied 2-2. It's 3-on-3. The Wizards hit back-to-back threes to make it close. Atlanta then scored a basket right back. It made it 115 to 119. Atlanta's still up by 4 with 2.5 minutes left. Very, very close game here. Have the ball, so you're watching me stress over that. And again, if Boston wins this game, it'll finish the Eastern Conference in the standings and where they'll all play. If the Islanders win, then it adds some intensity to the next game. But let's why don't you give the Philadelphia scoring update for the bad Philadelphia game, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sounds good. So Friday, Caps play Flyers, and each team scored once in the first, including Sprong at 6:19, which was his 13th, assisted by
damn.
Mantha. Second
Boston.
period, 2 goals by Wade Allison, and at 18:51, Oshie gets a tip-in, assisted by Dylan and Eller to give it a 3-2. Third period, only the Flyers score, and unfortunately was just that 4-2 loss for the Caps.
And with that, the Boston just won it. Sorry.
Okay.
So Boston, by winning this game now, actually solidifies, I believe, that they will be. Well, it went to overtime, so I have to double check the points, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no matter what, because this is the last game for the Islanders. So with that, then the Islanders ended up with 71, and Boston ends up with 73 with 1 game remaining. So that means we will play Boston. So this game tomorrow will end up being a tune-up game, but won't matter for seeding. And it means Pittsburgh now plays the Islanders and Trotz. So hopefully Trotz will bring back some of that 2018 magic and beat them. Anyway, sorry to break that up, but go back to your point breakdown.
No. That was perfect, because I was wondering if that was going to change the lineup for tomorrow. If Laviolette is going to put Wilson in with one question, and now that Backstrom and Ovechkin are okay, do you put him in tomorrow, knowing that it's just to get him kind of warmed up? There's all those kind of questions about what he's going to do, but
You got to throw over on the ice.
I have some answers to those questions. So let's get through the Philadelphia games, and then I do want to bring that back up because I have an answer for what I think they should do.
sure. You want me to do the Saturday one too?
Carol, do you have any thoughts on the first Philadelphia game, and then I'll give mine.
It was disappointing to know what was on the line, and even though they were shorthanded, weren't able to get it done. Philly, have been playing spoiler the week before. They beat Pittsburgh one night 7-2, and then lost on the next night 7-2. So they were looking to play spoiler, and fortunately they succeeded. I really don't have too much to say about that game. It was just disappointing to know that they could have made it interesting going into the last couple of games to try to get that first spot. But like I said, I don't care where they play. They can play good on the road, they can play good at home, and they can beat any team in the league if they play their game.
Yeah, I'm okay with not playing the Islanders in round 1. I'm not, it's not like first place is going to mean a whole lot. Although one breaking piece of news that we haven't talked about yet is now Capitals will be able to have 25% capacity, up from 10%. Starting this weekend.
Yeah.
So that's a big, I think that could be helpful. It's funny, we talked about Wade Allison last week and how good he is. And of course, he scores 2 out of his 4 goals of the season against us. So we're
Actually,
good at
3.
predicting
He
things.
scored his first goal against us earlier in.
Oh, that's true. But I'm saying just in last night alone.
Yeah.
So now he scored 3.
Yeah.
I thought about that. I felt like Craig Locker when he was talking about Giroux that game. I was like, damn it, why did we talk about that?
Yeah, we did talk about that, so I'll just bring that up for just a second. But anyway, TJ Oshie scores his 22nd, made it a little bit closer, I thought, going into the third, but they just kind of shut us down, and we just didn't. I think it was like an emotional hangover after the last game. I think
Absolutely.
it's what they called a classic trap game, and I think we felt
That's a valid point, Rob. I didn't even think about that. That's a valid point.
It's just you have that high, and then you have something to compete for, but it's not do or die, you know?
Mhm.
It's like first place is nice, but you'd have to win out kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts on that one. Let's get into that last Philadelphia game.
Sure thing. So Saturday, same. Here we go. Back to back. Caps Flyers. So there was no goals in the first or the second. Third period, Flyers score first at 3:42, followed by Eller scoring his eighth at 19:20 to tie it up 1-1. And we go into overtime. And 4 minutes, Connor Sheary scores his 14th to give the Caps the 2-1 lead. And that was the this is the one game I think of the whole season I haven't seen. I was doing a Mother's Day thing, but yay, golf clap, whatever you want to call it for Craig Anderson. I love to hear that, how well he did and watching the highlights. So good for him.
Yeah, Carol, were you able to watch much of this game?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I watched this game. I was, saw the shutout going into the third, and then Philly got that goal with 3 minutes left. I was a little blown, but when they pulled the goalie and went 6-on-5, they actually had a power play 6-on-4, weren't able to score on it. They got a man back, and that's when they actually scored. The birthday guy, Lars Eller, actually got the game time goal. And in the overtime, it felt kind of like, I was worried that they wouldn't be able to get it done. I didn't want them to go to the shootout. I wanted them to get it done, at least in the overtime. And with Connor Sheary, his speed is one of the things that I love about him. And his shot, he has a quick release on his wrist shot. And I always hated him when he played for Pittsburgh. But like I said about Tom Wilson, when he's on your team, you love him. When you play against him, you hate him. And sure, I think he adds that X factor with his speed. If he can get going and get hot in his playoffs, I think he can be an X factor for the Capitals going down the road.
Yeah. So this game is so coming down to the wire. It's a 1-point game, less than 30 seconds left in this game now. And I believe we committed a foul, which reset the shot clock. And then there's a timeout. So there's 12 seconds left in the shot clock, 18.2 seconds left in the game clock, and we're down 1. So we could hold and have 6 seconds left to try to win it, or, who knows what, or do you foul and give us a little more time? So anyway, it's a timeout in that game, but it is very close and very nerve-wracking. But speaking of this, I love these Pittsburgh players that we've been able to get. Farm team for us all. Connor Sheary stepping up. We've got top line Sprong stepping up. On the defensive end, we've got some players stepping up. It's just like overall, and Schultz is who I was speaking of, but just so many players that were from their system that we've taken on and have played phenomenal for us.
Yep.
And
I love it.
and Connor Sheary, what a beautiful goal. But Lars Eller, just an incredible goal. And that's another one of those plays. Mantha Ray digs it down deep. It's below the goal crease. At that point, it's not even a power play anymore.
Right.
And he digs it out and gets a perfect puck to Lars Eller, right? And Justin Schultz, another one of those Penguins players, has the assist. He's the one who, was working it down low with Anthony Mantha. But just, you can't say enough good stuff about him. So for me, it's, wow. Wizards just stole the ball. And they have a chance to win it now. 3 seconds left. They shoot it. It goes off the rim, and they lose.
Oh no!
Yeah, but it was in Westbrook's hands. So he had an opportunity to win the game.
That's terrible.
And Westbrook did get the game ball because he did get that legendary triple-double. Unfortunately, it's a loss. But they had an opportunity there, right? You put it in Westbrook's hands. He's having a phenomenal night. 6 seconds left. It just comes up a little short. We didn't have Bradley Beal again in this game. We lose the game by 1. It's a bit of a heartbreaker, but we'll come back and play this team again on Wednesday, and hopefully that'll be fuel for the fire. But anyway, I just wanted to give a little update on that. One last little thing. So I'm happy that the players played well. They were able to come back and get the 2-1. I'm going to go back to what Anna's question was. What do you do about tomorrow now that things are kind of settled? I think you put the best lines in that can play the game tomorrow and give them all a little bit of time because they're